Hey guys, welcome back. You probably know at this point that I don't particularly like grading companies, grading in general. I think it's a waste of money. Again, your opinion, in my opinion, is more valuable than the grading companies that are just looking to toss your card in a plastic piece for a bunch of money. And that's about it. That's what they're in it for. They don't spend very much time on it. They don't pay the graders very much money. So you should value your own opinion, your own time that you spend looking at a card more than you do the graded card. Regardless of whether you like graded slabs, where you want to collect them, you want to grade them so that you can sell them for more money. Whatever you want to do, you should know that if you spend a decent amount of time in the hobby, you should value your opinion more. So today we're going to take another look at why I think grading in general is pretty much bullshit. The CGC pop report has been out a while now. I have to give credit to PK or Poker Knowledge Cards for making me aware of the 10 trend that we're going to take a look at today. I had to check it out myself, and we'll look at the actual numbers for a few sets. You guys, if you'd like to leave comments down below, if you want to look at some other sets, if you find some outliers, if you find some examples that don't contribute to the trend that we're seeing here, by all means. This is my opinion. I think the statistics are pretty obvious as they skew in one direction very heavily, and even the random 4 sets that we're going to take a look at today that I just selected mostly at random, we're going to see that it's not so great. Not looking so great. So it was leaked at one point by Shane H that their grading process for subgrades is different than without subgrades. It doesn't take 3 to 4 times longer to type in or enable subgrades, like a checkbox or something, if they have that in the actual software, to say whether it's going to give you subgrades or not on the card itself. If they actually calculated all grades using subgrades, like they do for the subgrade submissions, they would have them stored, and it would be an option that you can just enable subgrades for a dollar value. It would be probably a pretty good business model if they wanted to do that, because there's a lot of people that complain and say, hey, my card, I wish it had subgrades, I would buy that, but it doesn't have subgrades, etc. So reading through this here, we have the question asked, can you get a perfect 10 on a card with no subgrades or only pristine? So at one point in time, the perfect 10 you could not get unless you ask for subgrades. Now you can. They changed that at some point. I don't know exactly if they gave the reason for it, but this is what Shango Mongo asks. Can you get a perfect 10 on a card with no subgrades or only pristine? Also, are subgrades stored anywhere, even on cards where you were ordered no subgrades, in case somebody ever wants to reholder it and add subgrades? So yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable question. I don't know if the expectation was to get an answer as bad as this one, or that appears as bad as this one. So Shane H tells us, hello, the only way to get perfect 10 is to pay for subgrades and receive 4 10s on the subgrades. Grading with subgrades takes 3 or 4 times longer than without. So to examine every card in that level of detail, even those that do not pay for subgrades, is not feasible. That I don't get it. You're supposed to be paying like the extra premium to have them on there. They should be graded in the exact same way. Otherwise, you're basically just 2 different grading companies, and you're saying that the without subgrade cards are less meaningful, I guess, or you're going to spend less time on them. You already don't spend very much time on the ones with subgrades. I know you don't, because it wouldn't be cost effective to do so, at least at a lower submission level. So we're going to take a look at the pop report, and using that, we're going to find some pretty interesting and obvious trends. Basically, if you spent extra money on subgrades, you decreased your odds of getting a pristine 10. So you paid extra money to get fucked in the butt by CGC. That's all it comes down to. Everyone goes on about how difficult it is to get CGC 10s. Their own pop report shows how truly meaningless they are, as we'll take a look at here. People pay out the ass for these super prestigious grades. Looking at you, BGS black labels, when in reality those are the least meaningful grades because there's no resolving power at that point in time. Like, there can be things wrong with it. Sometimes you work there before and you get automatic black labels galore. But here's another example. This is more so just problems with their process, and there's basically no fixing it at this point because the pop report is out. They went through the effort of putting this all together. They've graded many cards. I don't know what the exact number is at this point in time, but there's a lot. So any adjustments that they make to their process at this point in time is just going to absolutely dump on what is already done. So let's first take a look through Expedition in English here. So if we go through here, we'll see on Ampharos here for the first example, it'll show when there's no subgrades on your Pristine 10. We can tell the difference between the Pristine 10, whether it had subgrades or not, because it'll show the subgrades. With the Perfect 10 at this point in time, they always give it 10s across the board, so it's like an automatic added subgrades. So for our purposes, we are going to take a look at the Pristine 10s only. So if we go through here, our first example, we're going to go through all the Pristine 10s from Expedition. We'll see here, no subgrades. There they had subgrades. Subgrades, no subgrades. Subgrades, no subgrades, no subgrades, no subgrades, no subgrades, no subgrades, no subgrades times 2. No subgrades. No subgrades. No, 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 and no. So Expedition, we have three cases where we got a Pristine 10 with a subgrade submission, and we got 16 without subgrades. So here's a fine example, and I'd be interested to see if anyone can find me an example of where it's not the case. Everything that I've looked at so far is basically skewed in this direction. If you didn't spend extra money, you had a better chance of getting 10s. Spend less money, you're better off. It's completely counter to how it should be. I don't know how many, whether it's one or multiple of these graders that are doing the without subgrades and they're just slapping 10s because they don't give a shit. But that's what it comes down to. So 16 of 19 of the Pristine 10s, 84.2% were submitted without subgrades. So in essence, if you spent less money and you didn't get the subgrades, I don't know why I'm laughing about this. People wasted a lot of money on this absolute garbage. 5.3% or 5.3 times more likely to get a Pristine 10 by spending less money, by not getting subgrades. Does that make sense to you? It shouldn't. It shouldn't make sense to anyone, other than the fact that we're looking at bullshit here. We're looking at the finest bullshit report of all time, and I don't even know how this doesn't come up at any point. Surely, even though the pop report, it was only submitted by them recently, they should be seeing a trend in this. They should say, hey, Johnny, you got to cool it on the no subgrade 10s. Or maybe at some point in time in the beginning, say like, hey, maybe we should just grade everything with subgrades and just hide the subgrades if they don't want to pay the extra for it. And then someone will pay for the subgrades later if they want to see them. Or if they want to, get it reholdered or relabeled. Don't know who was at the board meeting, but they were sleeping. I think that's probably common sense. Should be something that was brought up. And how did no one at any point question like, hey, why is the grading process different depending on the service level or anything of the sort? If it's an expensive card or a cheap card, it should be treated the same way in terms of grading. Maybe more authentication going into the more expensive end of things. But in terms of criteria, your centering shouldn't be any different. Like the condition of the card should not vary depending on the service level or whether or not you have subgrades on it. That's just stupid. So Aquapolis, this is probably the worst offender. If anyone finds one that is worse than Aquapolis, please let me know, because we might be setting some records here. If you submitted Aquapolis cards hoping for pristine 10s, you got ripped off hard. So let's go through those real quick. No subgrades, no subgrades, no, 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 no. It might be better if I just go through and I'll tell you guys when we hit one that actually has subgrades. So as we go through all the cards here, and Aquapolis, they were graded. We get a double there, a triple no grader, double no grader, single no grader, double. Oh, there we go. We have the, this is the one and only pristine 10 from Aquapolis that has subgrades. And you might be asking, why is that important? Maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe when you flick through all these, I know it doesn't change much on the screen. Just pay attention to the actual name of the Pokemon card as I go through these, because we got a whole lot of nothing here. Whole lot of nothing. Okay, so what does that tell us for Aquapolis? We have 1 with subs, 62 without subs, 62 of 63, 98.4% were submitted without subgrades. So that makes the math super easy. We're 62% more likely to get a pristine 10. Given these numbers, if you were submitting with, you'd have to be absolutely crazy. You'd have to absolutely hate money to submit cards with subgrades, knowing this information in advance. Like, you're wasting your money. At least if you have the ability to hit a 10. If you think the card could hit a 10, you would not be submitting these. No way, no chance in hell with subgrades on them. So let's finally here, the one that we have the numbers for, we'll go into Skyridge. And let's see what Skyridge has for us. So no subgrades. We're kind of seeing the same story. No subgrades times 3. No subgrades. No subgrades. Ooh, we got 1 and 1. We got no. We got no. We got no. We got no, 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 no times 2. No times 1. 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 No times 2. No times 1. So we'll keep going through here. I think you guys kind of get the point. We got a whole lot of 10s are the ones that don't have the subgrades on them, because I don't know if it's based on the graders that were grading the ones without subgrades. They weren't on the same page. Clearly, they should have been all using the same process, because, like, oh, there we found one. We got the subgrades. Couple subgrades there. I guess those were probably in the same submission. Subgrade. There we go. We're getting a couple. We're getting a couple that are towards the end here. We're getting some subgrady boys. It still doesn't make up for the fact that we just went through a absolute crap ton. There's a tie. 1 and 1. 1 and 1. 1 and 1. None, some, and some. So Skyridge, 18 subs, 50 without subs. So we're looking at 50 of 68, or 73.5% were submitted without subgrades. So even this example, you're 2.8 times more likely to get a pristine 10. Absolutely ridiculous. 2.8% or 2.8 times. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. It's drastically different. 73.5% of your cards of the 10s being those no subarinos, the cheaper option, the cheaper and better option in hindsight. Very interesting. So we can take a look at Hidden Fates for fun. I didn't calculate the numbers here because there's just an insane amount, but you can see the trend. And anything that I've looked at, where here we have like 5 without subgrades. Here we have 10 to 2, so like 5x just in that one category with your Charizard GX. 7 to nothing. 5-0, 1-0, 6-0. Just ridiculous. 5-1, 3-0, 1-0. So lots of these cards submitted. So you would think that if anything has a large enough sample size, enough people submitting them, it's probably going to be something like Hidden Fates is modern, super available, 11-1 differential there. And so it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's cheaper cards that are submit without the subgrades. As we can see here, we have modern stuff, and we have like some of the Skyridge, some of the Aquapolis stuff is very expensive. So the difference there is absolutely ridiculous. I'd love to see the amount of, I don't know if we can pull this, but to see the amount of actual cards, total cards of a certain card printed or submit with subgrades, without subgrades, and the actual rate of getting the 10. I would imagine it is much higher on the non-subgrades. But this just goes on and on and on. We got all kinds of stuff submitted from this as well, because we have that shiny vault with all the baby shinies. Baby shinies are the same trend. No subgrades is the way to go, and these should be extremely close, and they're just not. They're not even close. So I don't know. Is this something that it would concern you guys? Is this something that, so now do we just not value the pristine 10s unless they have subgrades? It's certainly harder to get the one with subgrades. Shouldn't be the case. They should be looked at exactly the same way. But it's weird that there can be that much variation on from the same grading company, and yet drastically different results, just based on like how they decided for one. I don't know if it's a separate group. I don't know if everyone pulls whatever they want. Be interesting to know if it's if there's a grading team that do the no subgrades, and there's a grading team that do the subgrades, and maybe that's your variation. You have basically two different companies in one company, but this would be interesting too. If you get the subgrades added, do they? I guess they don't offer that service, right? Based on what they said on the on that question there, it doesn't seem like they actually have the ability to add the subgrades automatically. But I'm wondering if you got it regraded with subgrades, if they would like honor the fact that it's a pristine 10 and just make up some subgrades around that to make it still a pristine 10 with subgrades. I don't know if anyone's tried that. If anyone knows on that, please let me know. I would imagine they just have to grade it from scratch, just based on their process, unless they just want to bullshit some stuff, because I'm sure there'd be lots of people that would buy up these no subgrade 10s and then swap them over to subgrades to make them seem like they're the more rare super edition version. But that's pretty much it, guys. Again, if anybody sees anything else, I don't have time to go through all of these, every single set. But if you find sets where it's actually the reverse that's true, don't look too hard. I don't think any of them are, but you never know. There might be some that are much closer than the 4 that we took a look at. But yeah, I don't know, guys. Grading, is it dumb? It's dumb. All right, take care. See you next time. Join the Discord. Again, if you do like grading cards, if you like CGC slabs, by all means, spend your money on it. It's up to you. But just know that grading in general is a lot less meaningful than people like to let on.